Hey, USU listeners. This is Julie, and welcome to our episode today. You are in for a humongous treat. This episode is going to help you in so many ways with your wealth, abundance, finances, and you are going to love my guest, David. Let me tell you a little bit about him so that you can get to know him before we get into our convo. David Osborn is a New York Times bestseller of Wealth Can't Wait. He is also the bestselling author of The Miracle Morning for Millionaires, What the Wealthy Do Before 8 a.m. That Will Make You Rich. And his most recent third book is A Tribe of Millionaires. He has become a passionate educator, sharing with candor his journey to financial freedom and the well-cultivated methodologies that helped him get there. Today, David has built and is the co-owner of one of the top real estate brokerages in the world, with more than 5,000 agents and annual sales volume exceeding $12 billion per year. He has also founded over 50 companies with at least 25 that are ongoing profitable concerns. David's continued success allows him freedom to pour time into his priorities, being the best father and husband to his wonderful family, giving back to others, and teaching people how to achieve success so you too, can live a life of abundance. David, I'm so psyched to have you here today. Thank you.
Julie, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
So I would just love for people that may not know you well and know your story. A lot of what we talk about is this idea of being your youest you, your most authentic you. And maybe I'd love to talk a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get into this world around creating abundance and wealth? I think I remember from when you spoke at Quantum Leap Mastermind at QLM that you have an interesting story. Would love for people to get to know you.
Yeah. So, I almost feel like I have a PhD in me.
Oh, you remember.
Of course I remember. I drink coffee out of your coffee cup some mornings. I should have had it this morning.
Nice.
Yes, my background is interesting. My dad was military, so I was raised all through Europe. My mom's English, so I didn't get to America until I was 14 years old. Moved around a lot, as you can imagine. Got to school in America. I'd been in some very high discipline schools in England, almost like a military school. Found the lack of discipline over here kind of overwhelming. Got thrown out of a couple high schools, 3 to be exact. Really just invited not to come back. My folks were big fans of the private school system, so they would sacrifice to send me to private school, which is actually easier to get thrown out of. So that I blame it on the private school, not on my behavior. Went through that journey, but along that way, I was always kind of a internal seeker. Like I used to read a lot. That was one of my early things. And, what started out as fantasy and science fiction kind of flipped to more philosophy as I hit my teen years. So I was trying to understand a little bit more, what was going on in the universe. I started a lawn mowing company. I loved working. I was a great bagger. I worked construction. So I always found sort of some kind of freedom in work. My dad was a Green Beret colonel, so he was pretty tough. So I grew up with I had a lot to fight against, I guess. So then I go to college. I didn't really want to go to college. I just wanted to run my lawn mowing company. I made $20,000 at age 17 living at home, which feels really wealthy if you're paying no taxes and living at home and you have no expenses and no overhead. But
Awesome.
my dad said college Marines are out of the house. So I said, okay, I'll go to college, and just to show you how I'm in control, I'll fail all my classes my first year. So I did that. I was constantly digging my way out from like under these rocks I would throw on myself to try to prove my point. But I managed to get through college and graduate with a 2.3 GPA in 5.5 years, working on and off along the way. Went straight to work for a company. Oh, by the way, in the middle of that, at the beginning of college, I had a child with a girl that was a couple years older than me. That's a whole other story, but I happen to have a 31-year-old daughter in addition to my 2 young kids that I have today. She's amazing, and really it's been a wonderful journey with her, but at that time it was a little bit of a difficult time. I really made a hash of it early on, but the one thing I never really did was quit on me. So even though I was flunking out of school, it wasn't just complete laziness. I was just mad at my dad for making me go to school.
Yeah.
I had a baby out of wedlock early, but I did the right thing when given the opportunity and stepped into that. And so the work was a little bit of a liberation for me. I loved being a bagger. And then I started my own company and built it up to 2 other trucks and mine of running around cutting yards. And then I got my first job out of college, and the job was to sell computer systems door to door. So I would walk into a skyscraper, walk right by the no solicitation sign. We were trained from the copier salesperson playbook. If anyone's ever looked at that, it's hardcore sales. Just, hey, how are you today? Your dress is so pretty. Hey, who's in charge of buying computers in this office? So you learn to deal with a lot of rejection. I was pretty good at that company. I love to say I was the top salesperson pretty much every other month. I usually don't tell people there were only 3 salespeople. So
That's awesome.
then I had some pressure from my boss, who was wanting a little bit more for me than work, which was kind of inappropriate in those days. That's how it was. So she was wanting me to have a little bit more than just a work relationship with her, in spite of the fact that she was married. It kind of got sucky. So I quit after 1 year, sold all my possessions, and then went hitchhiking around the world. So for 2 years and 3 months, I hitchhiked around the world, all the way through Africa and everywhere in Europe,
Wow.
a little bit of Latin America. And then I came back to the United States, dead broke. And I had no job. I went and got another job in high-tech sales. But I felt the same vibe, a different kind of vibe of them wanting to control me. So I got through all the interviews, they hired me, and I quit the same day. I felt liberated. And then I realized I had a net worth of minus $1,500 because I'd run up my credit card traveling. And my mom was a realtor, and I swore I'd never go into real estate. But my mom said, why don't you come work for me temporarily while you look for a real job? And here I am, 25 years later. I gotta just make sure it's not 35 years, because it could be. So it's 20. Yeah, it's 25. Okay. Nowadays I say like 15 years ago, and then I suddenly realized it was 20 years ago. So 25 years later, here I am still in real estate and loving it every single day, and feel blessed to be in real estate. It's the greatest career a misfit like me could ever have.
Woo! All right. So I have a bunch of questions. I love your story. I love the minus minus 1,500 or whatever you were. And
Right.
I think that's really helpful for people listening, because I know that many listeners, are on the spectrum of where they are with financial health and wealth and feelings and thoughts about money. And I also love that you ended up in the career that your mom, you swore would never happen.
Right.
So great.
Yeah, I mean, because my dad was a military guy. When he retired, mom got into real estate just to make a couple extra bucks. And within 3 years, she was making more money than he ever made as a real estate agent. And, people I remember would say to me, your mom got lucky. And I would say, yeah, she got lucky. She would go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and come home at 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. So
yeah,
she was the hardest working person you'll ever meet. But I didn't like it, because at a 14-year-old, when she went to work, I kind of lost my mom. Like, I didn't see her anymore. I was the youngest. The others were all grown up. I certainly wouldn't put that on her, because I think at 14 or 15, you got to be on your own anyway to some degree. But yeah, she was never around anymore, because she was just loving work. And I think she had something to prove to the world, having been dad's military wife most of her life.
Yeah.
She had something to prove, and she went out in her 40s and just crushed it, became an amazing top agent, highly respected in the city of Austin, Texas.
Wow. She's from England originally. So
She's from England originally. Got the British accent, which helps. Everybody seems to give me like they're like, oh, you have a British accent, you must be smart and trustworthy. I think there's something to do with that, but she is smart and trustworthy. So in her case, it was absolutely true. Yeah. So she did really, really well. I go to work for her thinking it was a temporary job. And then I just sold a couple of houses, and, to one of them to a college buddy. And I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. I get to drive around with my buddy all day, talking about houses, and then I get paid, like $5,000 or $6,000 was my first commission. So I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I loved it. After about 3 years of just doing the same thing, I was like, wow, this is getting really old. I'm like having to just use scripts and dialogues. But fortunately for me, the second stroke of luck I had, other than having my amazing mom, is I joined a company. She had joined a company that had, when she joined, 5 people. When I joined, like 800. They ended up growing to 180,000 people. So when I was kind of restless and put my hand up and said, hey, what's next? What's next was opening franchises. So I moved up to Dallas, which was a territory that hadn't been fully developed. And I just started opening franchises with my parents' money, with my money, with investor money, everything we could find. And that was really tough and really difficult, but then it got good. And that's how I kind of built the 4th largest residential real estate company in the US, according to Real Trends. Personally, I don't think it's quite accurate. I think it's top 10, but regardless. And that was just really me just going up there, going all in. I didn't have any real financial responsibilities at that time. So I just went out and put every penny I had back into it, opened franchises. My mom was credible as a top agent, so I had her credibility. Gary Keller was my coach and mentor. He's a billionaire today, so he was behind us. I mean, it was just a whole string of things coming together. Now, to be fair, there were 900 people in the company at that time, or 800 other people that could have had the similar, or, you know, had similar opportunities. But again, I think it was just timing. Like, it hit me when I had no fear. And
Yeah.
so I just went all in. Like, I had nothing to lose. I'd never had a really stable job.
Right.
The daughter I had really hadn't even, had barely just started to come into my life, because there's another story on that. When the girl got pregnant, I asked for a blood test. She refused, moved to Minnesota and married someone else. So for 7 years, I wasn't even sure that kid was my kid. I was like, maybe I got a kid, maybe I don't. I don't really know. But she's married to
Wow.
somebody else. So they had just come back into my life a couple years earlier. So I had no financial response, burdens other
Yeah.
than building businesses. So I just went all in hard, expanded, made a ton of mistakes, fell on my face over and over again,
Yeah.
and ended up building a successful company.
Amazing. Amazing. And I know, I mean, obviously, since then, so much has changed. Obviously, having a family, an amazing wife who I love, and two children
Right.
that are younger. I just speaking to you, you really said it a couple times. You said you went all in, but you really didn't have fear. There wasn't a lot of fear then.
I would disagree. I was terrified, but I think I was more terrified of not succeeding than I was of the terror of doing.
I see.
I mean, I had almost like a mini nervous breakdown halfway through it, because I wasn't the person I needed to be to have the level of success I was trying to take. And
Yeah.
so, to get rid of those parts of my personality that were getting in my way,
Right.
I almost had to have breakdowns personally and physically to have breakthroughs. So,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, it's fearful. Like, I would speak in front of 10 people and I would get scared, and I would
mm,
recruit agents and I would be scared. I'd have, like, am I worthy? Am I good enough to try to recruit this person? But, you just feel all that stuff and you just put it away and you choose action. I was lucky enough to have mentors and peers all along that were there to stand for me. I hired a guy to work for me, who taught me the act as if model. Even if act as if says that even if you're terrified and you don't feel worthy, you act as if you are confident and you act as if you are worthy.
yeah.
And so I would do that a lot. I would remind myself of that. I would do Tony Robbins. I loved Tony Robbins back then. It helped me a lot because I felt like I procrastinated. I felt like I started too much stuff. I felt like I didn't finish things.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had a lack of confidence. And so Tony Robbins walking on fire, getting all that hype, super energetic stuff was really valuable to me. I
Yeah.
don't need any of that anymore. Like, I forget now. I'm like really focused and really a productivity monster, but it took 20 plus years of shedding the parts of me that were not useful. And that's a painful process. It's not like just a snake shedding their skin. It requires a death
Yeah.
almost of parts of yourself that you have to let go. And part of that part is the part of worry and fear. So today, I
Yeah.
would say I still have fears, but I'm much more fearless. And I'm also very familiar with the dance between fear and action. So yeah, I'll
Mm,
feel a little nervousness. I've got an appointment at 1:30 that I'm a little nervous about, but it's just like, yeah, I remember that feeling. I know what it is. It's like
yeah.
like right before I go on stage, I get a little nervous, but I'm like, yeah, I remember that feeling. Now I've experienced it so many times. I know how to just walk right through it. I don't think you ever don't have fear unless maybe you're a psychopath or something. I don't know. Or maybe some people don't
Right.
have fear. I don't know. But I always have. I think fear is good. It kind of wakes you up, wakes up your immune system, brings your awareness to bear, and keeps you fully present to whatever you have to do next.
So well said. I love what you said. I want to go back to something, actually, I think it's very interesting. You said that you weren't yet the person you needed to be successful. Would love to talk a little bit about what are those qualities? And I know you've written about this and would love to get more into that too, but what are those qualities needed, do you think, to be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the reason we wrote the Tribe of Millionaires, our new book, is that with Pat and Tim and Mike, is that, to become somebody, everyone listening, including you, Julie, including me right now, to get to our next level of success in life is just out of our peripheral vision, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to be a better dad or a better husband or a better business person or have more money, all of that, and you might have a lot already, you might have a ton of success, but to get to the next level, it's just out of sight. Like, I can't see my hands right now. You guys can, but I can't see my hands. And then to grow, like, I have to go on my tippy toes. Now I can see that. And once I see it, I can make it part of me. And to me, that's the evolution of growth. Whatever got you exactly to where you are today.
Yeah.
To get to the next level, you have to get new skills, new capacities, and new capabilities. The way you get those new capacities and skills and capabilities is listening to podcasts such as this one, reading books such as, you, PhD in You, or my book, Tribe of Millionaires, listening to podcasts, to this day, I still do all of these things on a regular basis. I read about 35 books a year, 3 a month. I listen to
Woo.
probably 50 podcasts a year, and I track it all. I'm obsessed with tracking. So to be successful, I think the first thing you have to do is take ownership of yourself, ownership of who you are. And that doesn't mean you have to be like the superhero guy that rips off their clothes and Superman's underneath.
Yeah.
What it means, although your spouse might enjoy that, what it actually means is you have to take ownership of developing yourself as a human being. School
Yeah.
doesn't end in high school and college. It actually just begins, because then you're sitting passively learning what some other schmuck is teaching you, to get a degree that you don't know what you're going to do with in most cases. In life, you then have the opportunity to learn for things that you actually want to do and want to have in life. That's the great part. The bad part is a lot of times you bring in a bunch of junk from your childhood that doesn't serve you in winning at the highest level.
Yeah.
And the only way you can break through that is to change your identity, which is a very painful process, especially when you're super attached to it. And if you're attached to who you are and it's causing you all your pain and problems, it's real hard to let it go because you're attached to it. But in reality, you're your own worst enemy and you're your own best friend.
Just so people are listening, because I know a lot of people listen while they're driving. I have notes. You're going to have show notes, because that was brilliant. That was so well said. And I love this idea of owning who you are, and that school does not start. I'm so with you. It doesn't end. I mean, after high school and college. In
Right.
some ways, and listening to you, it's funny because you kind of defied the whole school system situation. Listening to you, it's like your life, your learning has exploded after school.
Yes, absolutely. And I wish I'd known better. Honestly, if I'd known better, I would have done better in high school and college. I think high school and college is a great learning opportunity. I was just rebellious. I had a lot of rebel in me.
Yeah.
I think I felt slightly compressed by my parents' style of upbringing, which was very straightforward, down the middle, old school military with a lot of rules and discipline, and probably a great way to raise a kid. I felt squished. So it caused me to act out in school and try to fight back like a rebel. A rebel without a clue is really what I probably was. So yes, now I love learning. I embrace it. I'm learning about how to raise kids and reading books, listening to podcasts. I'm learning about how to be a better husband, listening and reading books. Maybe too much for some people. Sometimes my life's like, oh, okay, you got a new strategy for us now. What have you been reading? But at the same time, it's either stagnation or growth, right? You can't have one, or it's not a choice of like just everything being great. It's either you're growing or you're stagnating. There's really no middle ground.
Absolutely. Well, I know, I love your wife. And we were talking, she was joking. I also have Amazon packages coming often. She was like, we get a book almost every day. I'm like, okay, that beats that, but like,
hey,
good
come
obsession.
on.
Good
She gets
obsession.
she buys something almost every day too. I don't know what it is. All kinds of, she's got a wider range. So
Right. It's all
toys
good.
for the kids or shoes or something.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah, she's lovely.
It's all good. No, it's all good. I love it. I want to talk a little bit about, if you guys are watching, oh my God. So the cutest picture of David's 2 adorable children who I get to see on Facebook all the time and occasionally at events, and your awesome wife and you.
Tracy, she's fabulous.
She's amazing. Talk to us about, you wrote the book with Hal on the Miracle Morning for Millionaires and these habits to do before 8 a.m. and the habits that, I'm thinking for those, even those not in real estate, I know people that listen we have a wide variety of people listening in, but I think these habits are tried and true. And I want to share, hear from you what you feel are those essential habits that are non-negotiable.
Well, ownership of your own destiny is the first one. That's non-negotiable. No victim talk, no, complaining. But, I love Hal. Hal's a dear friend. We're neighbors. Our kids are best buds and go to school together. And so I wrote the book with Hal because his message, so if you think of it as categories, like the first category is how do I get to my first million, right?
Right.
And we, in Bundin and through Tribe of Millionaires, we kind of talk about strategies on how to get to your first million. Then you reach a million, you realize a million isn't that much anymore. And it's like how to get to 5 million, right? And then how to have all that while having balance, health, and a great family relationship. Well, the first thing in that is managing yourself, right? And back in the day when I felt like I procrastinated and I put things off and I was lazy. I mean, I worked hard, but I felt like I was disorganized. What I didn't have was the focus. And so you asked earlier, what do successful people need? And they need a purpose, a destiny that they've chosen, something they're fully engaging in. At that time for me, it was opening up real estate offices and being a real estate broker owner. And then they need their goals, right? So if you have that, your purpose, your destiny, and your goals, That's the foundational starting point. You see, I think we're like ivy, and ivy, if you leave it on the ground, will grow randomly. But if you build a
Yeah.
trellis for it, it'll grow up on the. Sorry, did I lose you for a second?
You're all good. You had a little call. It's all
It'll
good.
grow up. Yeah, it was a telemarketer. If it'll grow up on the trellis,
Yeah.
and that's your consciousness is the same way. So what's the trellis? It's like your goals, your choices. In Tribe of Millionaires, we talk about the influence effect, the people you hang out with, the
Yeah.
accountability effect, who holds you accountable. Well, but before all of that, so again, this is higher up the chain. Before all of that, is just mastery of your own self. And that takes time. It takes a lot of time, like years and years and years was my experience. Some people
Yeah.
may do it faster. Some people are lucky and they were like the class president and they were straight A students, and right off the bat, they had a certain amount of self-control. But it took me a while to develop it. And the Miracle Morning is such a wonderful tool for that. And the whole concept behind the Miracle Morning is you get up 1 hour early and you get silence, affirmations, visualizations, reading, scribing, and then exercise. So I wrote Miracle Morning Millionaires to try to apply that basic conversation to millionaires. So what I do personally, silence is prayer or silence for me. So I did that this morning. I would meditate. Affirmations really just to own the positivity in who you are. One of the things I learned early is no negative self-talk. We all are our own worst critic and we tear ourselves down. So you have to kind of replace that with affirmations. You know, I am worthy. Today's going to be a great day. I'm going to go out and serve people. I'm going to be of service and value to everybody I meet. Visualization is closing your eyes and seeing the day going spectacularly well. So I'm about to have a meeting with a pretty high-end guy, and I see myself walking through the door into his office. I see us connecting at a high level. I see us having a very valid and functional conversation. Or if I'm raising money or if I'm doing a deal, all of the same thing. You know, Tony Robbins used to teach a thing where you put like a circle right in front of the door before you walk into a meeting where you're going to have a meeting. And that circle is whatever your favorite color is. And it just imbues you with power and energy and positivity, right? So that's visualization. And you think to yourself, well, that's hokey. Yeah, of course it's hokey. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to get out of the mediocrity of our lives that are
Yeah.
just given to us
Yeah.
into exceptionalism.
Yeah.
You know, and exceptionalism requires that you program success into your life. It's not given to us naturally. Babies aren't naturally born with a destiny of success. So you have to manufacture these things. And yeah, they're kind of hokey, but they work, they're effective.
Right.
And, you know, sports guys use them all the time. Like one of my sports psychologist friends for the All Blacks in New Zealand's like, I just try to coach these guys not to let the last play beat you twice, right? So something goes wrong, you get blamed or you get a penalty. Do you let that penalty screw up the next 10 minutes of your game, or do you just drop it and get on with tackling the next guy or taking the ball to the end zone the next guy? So all these hokey things work in the same way that that concept works. You might be justified in thinking someone made a bad call against you, but if you go psycho for 10 minutes and you aren't productive on the field, you just wasted 10 minutes of your life. So that's the visualization. And then it's reading, which is exposing yourself to new ideas. Writing, I'm a big journaler, so I journal quite frequently. And then exercise, obviously, if you don't take care of the golden goose, then you're not going to get any golden eggs.
Awesome. Wow.
So we wrote that book for that. Like I love the concept of what Hal teaches. I do think it's the beginning of getting a handle on yourself. And it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful 6-step process that takes an hour of every day and sets you up on a pathway for success. If you own the morning, you own the day.
So well said. Talk a little bit, if you will. I'm thinking of I know people that listen in that are maybe budding entrepreneurs. Maybe they've just started hitting 6 figures. You kind of talked about like, you know, you hit the first 7-figure and you're like, that's actually not as much as I thought it was. Now I want to go for, which I think is also for those starting out, like I want to hit 6 figures, and then you do. And it's like, oh, okay, now I want to. So can you talk a little bit about, I know you've written so much about you talk about how to get your first million, or how to, you know, is it mindset? Are there practices? What can you say to people that are like, I'd really like to get there?
Yeah. So I think that, you know, I have a dear friend who just hit 60,000 in income, and she's a wonderful person, and she's a therapist, and she coaches and helps heal people. And she's like, wow, I'm starting to finally feel like I have money. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's interesting, right? 60,000. So, you know, 100,000 is a lot of money. 60,000 is good money. It's the beginning of achieving levels of success in life. But what happens in order to, you know, again, to get to the next level, you have to be comfortable with wealth. So a lot of people aren't comfortable with wealth. So
Yeah.
a football star might get 25 million and then be bankrupt 5 years later because they didn't
Right.
ever learn the skill set of managing wealth. So the game of wealth is to always live below your means.
Yeah.
to save capital and to invest that capital and hold that capital responsible for a rate of return for you and your family. That's really the game. And whatever level you can achieve that is going to determine your destiny. Now, you need to have some capital, your financial destiny. So you need to have some financial capital to, enjoy on yourself as well and to have fun. But you also, it's very critical that you always keep your living expenses below the rise in income. It can come up, but it must stay below if you want financial freedom. And if you do it that way in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you can be financially free. So, the fundamentals of that are putting yourself around people that are doing it. In the Tribe of Millionaires at GoBundin, we put people together where being exceptional just seems normal because because everyone there is exceptional. Now you have to, have earned a certain amount of money to get into the elite tribe. And then, but it's really who you hang out with, your attitude that you bring, your vision and your goals for yourself. And then are you constantly looking and thinking about your goals? If you said today, I'm going to buy myself a Toyota or a Lexus and really thought hard about it, you'd suddenly see Toyotas and Lexuses everywhere.
Right.
Well, it's the same way with wealth. You have to decide that you're going to be successful. You have to decide what your goals and your purposes are. And then every day you will see evidence that helps you in your journey towards wealth. And so that's it. I mean, I'm trying to put it in terms back from when I was a beginner, because when I was a beginner, I wasn't as good at it. I wrote goals, but I didn't review them all the time. Now I write my goals, I review them twice a week. So 100 times a year, I'm re-impregnating in my subconscious where I'm trying to go, because I actually think we'll go like that ivy we talked about anywhere. Your life will go somewhere, and it's either going to go a place of your choosing or a place that someone else chooses for you. And the more you choose it and focus on it and visualize it and study it and look at it, it's inevitable that that's the way you're going to go. And if you don't choose anything, then you get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
Right. Get what you get. Don't get upset. I used to use that with my kids.
Yeah, that's where I got it from.
Yeah. Use that in parenting. I love this Ivy example, the metaphor, and I love how you broke down the game, this financial freedom game that really, living below your means. I believe in that as well. Like, and of course, then saving and then investing that. I just love how you, and for those listening, by the way, GoBundance is I've had the honor of doing a little bit of getting to facilitate. I did a awesome brunch of people in the guys in the DC area. And I want to just let people know it's a phenomenal group of men, and they've actually started one for women. And then there's the family, Fam Bundins, and a group for wives. And it's just, what I love is that you said it becomes normal to be living an extraordinary life and being around people that are also.
I love the guys and girls and families in GoBundance, and we've now got the entry-level training program. And if any of your listeners want the book for free, by the way, you can just go to tribeofmillionaires.com.
Nice.
And just pay shipping and handling, and we'll send you the book for free.
Awesome.
But what I love about them is all of these people have chosen to take their destiny in their own hands.
Yeah.
And that's really step one. Like, you have to take your destiny in your own hands from wherever you are, and then slowly layer in the skills that'll take you to another level. And that is being purposeful, choosing your destiny, selecting who you hang out with, and then acquiring new skills and capabilities. Heck, when I was first in sales, I was shy. I was a shy kid. And to build my confidence around selling, I used to listen to sportscasters on the radio, and I would repeat after them everything they said. So if it was football, and back then it was Troy Aikman and Emmett Smith and Michael Irving. So I'd be like, right. Troy, and the sportscast would be saying this, and I'd be like a tenth of a second behind him, just trying to repeat him in my car all alone. Troy Aikman steps back in the pocket. He's looking around. He fakes it to Emmett Smith, and he throws it to Michael Irvin. And Michael Irvin catches it down on the sideline. He's running down the edge, and he gets taken out of the 5-yard line. And I would do this to develop the ability to convey energy through my voice, because communication becomes massively important in life, in almost all areas. So if you want to be very successful, you have to be a good communicator. Again, I was lucky, Julie, because I was 25 years old and I didn't know any better. 27 years old. I was just hungry. I was ambitious, and I would do whatever it took to be successful. Looking on it now, it kind of seems like a silly thing to do, but it was effective for me. It brought me out of myself more and helped me gain self-mastery over time over myself.
That's so brilliant. I think for those listening, you could do that with Tony Robbins. You could do that with sports announcers. You could do that with it's a great idea, tuning into that energy.
It's funny. You reminded me, when I was first teaching, I did it with Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn's probably my all-time favorite. And he has, like, for $49, The Magnificent Life or The Life Extraordinary or something is online at Amazon. and I would repeat his. So when I was first doing my training for agents, I would literally try to memorize what Jim Rohn said, and then be like, you can't have 4 springs. Nobody gets 4 springs. You get a spring, a summer,
Yeah.
a fall, and a winter. And you
Yeah.
better hope that in the spring you saved up some seeds for the winter, right? So I
Yeah.
love that, man. He was just a beacon of light for others, and I would try to copy him. So fake it till you make it, act as if, right?
Yeah. He's the one who said, I believe, that you're the sum of the 5 people that you are
You
around the
hang out with.
most.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
A huge fan. He is like the grandfather of personal development awareness. I mean, he's just beyond brilliant.
He
Yeah.
is. I mean, he learned a lot from Conan Nightingale Conan, but he was phenomenal. He was influential in Tony Robbins. He was influential in so many people.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
dead now, but he was an amazing man. I got to meet him once. He's a
Wow.
brilliant storyteller. Yeah, a good one to listen to.
Such a good one. One quick thing before we wrap up, and I think you alluded to this earlier, and you talked about, this being comfortable with wealth and money, and you were talking about, people that are, football players that make a ton and they lose it. And I think what you were alluding to is this idea of worthiness. And I'm just curious, because it's in the end, like you said, it's all what you're saying to yourself. And have you seen that, as you've worked with different people and written so much about, being financially free, maybe do you have any suggestions? I know you talked about acting as if, but how to help somebody, if someone's listening, they're like, yeah, I didn't see it growing up. I don't know that I'm worthy. I think people have different stories around money sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really great point, and you again have to just shut out the bad programming and add the good programming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to eliminate completely the bad programming, but I do know that if you turn up the volume on the good programming, which
Yeah.
is your own self program, which is reading the books, the affirmations. I do a lot of vision work where I'll write my life in 5 years in the future. I do this almost every year. I have one with me in the back of my journal right now. And I write what my life looks like in 5 years, how old my kids are, how old my wife is. It's usually 3 or 4 pages. It's right here, the vision of, and it's a 3-page read. What I try to do is just create this really bright future that I'm attracted to, that I'm choosing. I go to a beautiful, quiet place and I journal all the things I'd like to have happen. And then I read that, I focus on that. So I'm looking
Yeah.
way more at the path ahead
Love
than
it.
trying to microanalyze the past.
Love it.
I might have stepped in dog do once in the past, but I'm not obsessing about, that bad experience I had where I stepped in doggy do. I'm just trying to clean off my shoes as best I can and keep walking towards the bright future that I'm choosing, and
Yeah.
turn up that. And the way you turn that up is by hanging out with positive people. And by the way, I still slip back and forth, but I remember when I was younger, I used to be way more critical of other people. And I
Mm,
don't do that anymore. I just try to shed that and drop that. It's
yeah.
irrelevant to me. I just try to move forward with action. And what helped me with that was hanging out with a whole bunch of positive people. I used to not work out that much. Now I work out religiously. What helped me with that was hanging out with a bunch of people that work out all the time.
Yeah.
It's the influence effect, the sum of the people you hang out with. And what's great is, like, I have a lot of mentors too. In fact, I'm meeting one in a little bit that are 9-figure guys, meaning they're worth $100 million or more. And I just reach out to mentors all the time, and I'll email them and say, hey, what do I have to do to earn the right to have coffee with you? And then they'll tell me, and I'll sit down and I'll have prepared questions, but I usually just start by finding out who they are and how they got there. And then I ask my prepared questions. And then I usually find out what charity they like. And I say, I can't give you anything of value for what you did for me, but I would just want you to let you know I donated $500 in your name to your favorite charity because
Mm,
I honor you so much. And a lot of these people have gone on to become friends and peers. But why am I doing that? It's the influence effect. I'm trying to find, who is that next person that can
yeah.
help me get that stuff I can't see into my peripheral vision. And I find the best way to get expanded consciousness is be around people that are ahead of you. And you'd
Yeah.
be amazed at how many people want to help you. I mean, I'll help anybody. Other people all they want is you to be authentically you, and they want you to be a person that follows through with what they say they're going to do. So, you show up, you pay attention, you say thank you, do all the right things, make a donation, and then all of a sudden you're earning bank with that person to keep going back to them anytime you have trouble or tribulations, and therefore slowly learn and absorb from them.
Brilliant. So well said. There's so much juice in there. My God. So much juice. The influence effect and having mentors and really, as you said, focusing on your future and really visualizing that. I'm so with you. It's incredible what can happen. Incredible.
Yeah, I've got one little trick I'll leave you guys with. Why not me is my favorite. So, like,
Love it.
I used to focus and I used to struggle with a lot of doubt personally. And I just found it when I said, well, why not me? Why
Yeah.
don't I deserve a good life? Why there was no answer to that. You do deserve it, right? So if I found that doubt or I found that lack of self-worth, I'd say, hey, why not me? And I
Yeah.
never, there was no, my other consciousness would never, the part of me that was tearing me down would never have a good answer to that. Well, I don't know why not you. Somebody's got to be out there and have an amazing life. So why not me? And that became pretty strong mantra for me. So if I found myself slipping into doubt too much, I would just start saying, why not me? And it kind of works for me. It pulls me out of it. You can't like undo what's been done. So the programming is there. We all have it. Like,
Yeah.
kids here know like 100 times for yes. And there's a reason for that. We're constantly afraid our kids are going to get hurt. I'm even conscious of it. And I'm still saying, hey, be careful. You're climbing on the couch over a concrete floor. Don't fall off the couch. Right. It happens to every child, but to different degrees, obviously way worse for some. But you just got to turn down the volume of the negative programming and turn up the volume of your own. And if you'll do that over 10 years, you'll see miracles. If you think it's going to change in 6 months or a year, unlikely. But if you do it consistently over the years and surround yourself with better people,
Yeah.
be self-reflective, what works, what doesn't work. Like for me, criticizing other people doesn't work. So I tried to drop that. You just end up elevating. It's just inevitable that you'll elevate if you'll do the consciousness work of choosing a brighter future.
So well said. You are such a beacon of light. Seriously, I know people
Thank you.
listening are going to get so much from you. The why not me? What a great way to end. I'm just going to remind everyone, if you want to get David's book, your new book, you can just go to tribeofmillionaires.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
And it's
davidosborn.com,
free,
and it's free
except for shipping. Yeah.
except for shipping. And we'll have the show notes and all things David Osborn. We can find you. I know we'll list also social media and your website. And I'm so thankful to be in the sphere and the journey with you, and to be able to share you and your wisdom. This is just it's so tangible. And I know everyone listening, I know you guys are going to get and got so much from this. So I just thank you for being the light that you are, really.
Thank you, Julie. The feeling's mutual. My wife loves working with you in the seminars and the coaching you do, and I'm very proud to be your friend.
Thank you so much.